Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:06 here on O'Connor and Company, this special Tuesday holiday week morning. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for letting us ride shotgun with you as you go about whatever your business is, taking the kids where they need to go, going to work, or maybe you're just going out to get your last fixins there for the dinner. Either way, you're going to be more informed and hopefully a little happier by the end of this morning, because we're joined by Sean Spicer of Yacht Rock fame. And admit it, Sean, if you could give up your entire media platform, give up your entire life in D.C. and politics, if you could be a roadie for one of these classic Yacht Rock groups, you would give it all away right now, wouldn't you?
Oh, can you imagine 4 or 5 days on the road with Christopher Cross? Your life would be changed. Life would be changed. Michael McDonald, I think, would be epic, but I don't know that I'm there yet. I think you start with Christopher Cross.
Oh, yeah. No, you got to crawl before you walk. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
So right now, basically, the yacht you bring to the table for Yacht Rock is a little like a dinghy.
No, I'm more of a tender, like a step up. It's got a motor.
Coming up at 7:05, KT McFarland will join us. I forgot he's a Navy guy, so I can't throw these boat references out. 7:35, Ken Noonenkemp, our pal from Wine Outlet, talk about working with veteran-owned businesses this November. 8:05, Julie Kelly, and then 8:35, Joe Concha. Sean, we're going to talk to Julie Kelly, of course, about Jack Smith. What's Jack Smith going to do? Yeah, Jack Smith is unemployed. Maybe he'll get a job in the Trump transition. I doubt that's actually in the cards. But Special Counsel Jack Smith filed officially yesterday to drop all of the charges against Donald Trump related to January 6th. They were accepted by the judge. So basically, Donald Trump is 100% exonerated in those charges that were brought. And Sean, it's hard for the American people to see this turn of events and not realize the plain truth of the matter, that we all knew that these charges were fully political. They were meant to hurt his chances for re-election. They didn't work, and now it's over.
Well, look, it's funny. Mark Penn, Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton's pollster, tweeted something out. He said, lawfare hibernating. The cases against Trump were all based on twists of law designed to snare a political opponent during the election season and prevent him from getting elected. They backfired as most people saw through them. Merrick Garland never got over being blocked from the Supreme Court and was the most partisan attorney general in history.
Yes.
Good riddance to this lawfare. That's Mark Penn. That's Bill Clinton's pollster.
Yes.
That's Hillary Clinton's senior advisor. And so for anyone who, that's not a right-wing Republican talking point. That's how blatant this was. And I think that the thing is, with so many of these cases, that if you were objective and say, just take Donald Trump's name off, run the scenario, and would that person be normally charged? In every case, the answer is no.
Yeah.
And so that's the point. People say that, Donald Trump's not above the law. And I'm like, right, he's also not beneath the law.
Thank
you.
You
Can't try to reach down and charge someone just because you don't like them. That is what third world countries do. And the idea that the media kept saying that there's no evidence of this, and it's like, wait a second, let me just be clear. No one's been charged with, fill in the blank ever before.
Right.
In the case of the New York case, you think about it, no one, they
invented a law. They
invented it, right.
Yeah.
They couldn't even tell the court what he was being charged with. The jury's instructions didn't have a specific charge. And yet everyone's kind of shook their head and said, yeah, but, we're getting Trump, so that's what counts.
Right. That was the bottom line. And by the way, $90 million Jack Smith spent on this. $90 million to try to imprison Trump. And I think it may have been Jonathan Turley who made the case yesterday that this basically was the largest jury verdict in American history. The election day was the jury verdict. And the jury of the American people said, we dismiss all of this. We think that it's all a complete and total fraud. And beyond just the maniacal use of our judicial system for political purposes, while at the same time accusing Donald Trump of using the judicial system and justice to inflict penalties against his political opponents. But beyond that, my bigger issue with all of it has less to do with Trump and the election as it has to do with the deterioration in our judicial system. The next time the DOJ comes forward and said, yeah, we've got charges and we brought an indictment against this person, my instinct was, well, is that really an indictment? Did you really find that evidence, or are you just doing this to try to hurt this person? And that's awful. The American people should have trust in this system.
That's right. I mean, that's the problem, is that the integrity of these. Think about we talked about the media earlier, and the degree to which they have exposed themselves for not just what they do talk about, but that what they don't talk about, the suppression of stories and the bias that they bring. The institution has been destroyed, and now you're seeing it with the Department of Justice, the weaponization of it to go after political enemies and not treat others. And it was funny because I watched a Democrat the other day will say, well, Hunter Biden was charged. He was charged after he turned down a sweetheart deal. I mean, at some point they were like, hey, guys, we got nothing left.
Yeah.
Like, we've tried to let you off. We've tried to give you the sweetheart deal. You either take it or you don't. And that's the thing, is that these Democrats get a pass after pass. Hillary Clinton got a pass. She clearly broke the law when it came to how she handled her server.
The classified documents.
Classified documents case. So it happens over and over again, and they always seem to get a pass. When it comes to Trump, they always can rationalize it somehow because, again, it's in pursuit of what they call on the left the greater good. As long as you are pursuing what you perceive to be the greater good, it's okay.
So let me ask you, Sean, because I think Pam Bondi is the new Attorney General. There needs to be full transparency on this. We need to know exactly how this went about, whether the Biden White House was directly involved, or at the very least, I think through the things that he said publicly, President Biden, they were tangentially involved in Merrick Garland motivating Merrick Garland to move forward on this. This is wrong. This is bad. We need to have a full report. And frankly, I think there needs to be accountability. We shouldn't just shrug and walk away. But the media is going to say, oh, Trump's just trying to inflict pain and penalty against his political opponents. Can we get accountability for what happened here over the last 8 years, starting with Russian collusion? Full accountability for what they did, not for Trump's vindication, but to re-solidify faith and trust in the judicial system, in the Department of Justice. That's really what this should be about, so the American people have faith in the levers of power and justice in Washington, D.C. I want to trust the FBI again. I want to trust U.S. attorneys again. But to do that, we need full accountability. Can we do that and not make it sound like it's really about Trump and revenge?
I think you can. I think the problem now is that the lack of, you use the word trust. And the problem is that there's such a lack of trust. I know the media right now is freaking out about background checks, right? And if you think about it, how the FBI was weaponized, Peter Strzok, et cetera, to go after Donald Trump. Do you really believe that they can now do a fair?
Just so everyone knows what the FBI, the background checks thing. The Trump transition team is not utilizing FBI background checks for their nominees, and everyone's freaking out about it. But of course, their position, I think, here is the FBI background check. That information that is gathered, even if it's not relevant, could be leaked to damage people for political purposes. Right.
Right. And the point is that if you have lost trust, if 5 people, 10 people, 20 people have shown their cards to you, then why do you believe the rest of the institution is pure?
Yeah.
And that gets to your point, Larry, which is I think that there's a concern about how you would go about some of these things by either side. And so there's a way you can do it, instilling trust, that both sides come to the table and say, let's look at this for the greater good. But I don't think Democrats want to participate in it because they don't want to know either. So if you're a Democrat, even if you believe in it, do you really want to be complicit in proving that these institutions, that there's a level of corruption in them?
Well, that's the next shoe to drop in all of this, and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General designee, is going to be a big part of it, and whoever the FBI.
Oh, she's going to be. I'm excited for Pam. I've known Pam a long time. I think she's going to be fantastic as Attorney General. Almost every one of these picks I'm actually super excited for. I mean, I think Tom Homan is huge. Is going to be huge.
Oh gosh, yes, yeah. Well, we want to get into some more of those, and also later on in the show, we're going to talk about some of the people who are yet to be named. Some of the very important people in Trump world, including Rick Grinnell, Robert Wilkie, a bunch of names who Kash Patel. We'll get into all of that coming up in a moment. Also, by the way, believe it or not, there's only one D.C. reporter who covered both of Jack Smith's cases in person in the courtroom. The documents case down in Florida, as well as the January 6th case here. Her name is Julie Kelly, and she'll be joining us on this at 8:05.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
News is brought to you by Baird Financial.
Interesting developments over on our favorite television show we like to hate watch. That would be The View. The View needs to, before we even get into the details, they've got to change that paradigm over there, right? They can't have another 4 years of just 5 women sitting there screaming about how much they hate Donald Trump. That's unsustainable, isn't it, Sean?
I don't know. I mean, I think they because the problem is you've seen them try to bring in different people to that chair, that one Republican chair that they have. And Meghan McCain got so disgusted by it that she left the show. She wrote a book and talked about it. Would you want to sit next to Whoopi Goldberg or Joy Behar?
I think the premise of your question actually reveals what the problem is. The one Republican chair. Last I checked, the majority of Americans voted for the Republican to be president. Right. Maybe they should shift those 5 chairs to a 3-2 majority for Republican
they
voices.
Don't want. I mean, the fundamental point. I mean, this gets back to what we discussed earlier this morning. They don't want to acknowledge that. They don't want that, and so that's they believe that it's still a token that you throw someone out there, but it's not. It's like a Sunday show where again you give it to somebody who's a Trump hater that used to have an R next to their name, so you can claim that it's bipartisan.
Right.
It's not. There's no attempt at it. Right. I mean everything, and that's why. I mean, the bigger story is that's why they are failing, right? They're talking about Disney's talking about spinning off ABC. Comcast is spinning off MSNBC. The Washington Post lost $70 million last year.
Yeah.
The New York Times is down. The problem is that they can. I mean, it's like the Harris campaign. You can literally see the problem in front of you, and you don't want to discuss what the real issue is. And The View does this every single day, and they're clueless. I mean, that's the thing, is that they're just a bunch of dummies that sit around and talk about stuff that don't have a real understanding of what's going on.
Well, and here's a good example of it. Here's a Friday exchange with Sonny Hostin. They had Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader for the House, on. And Sonny Hostin has just been beating the drum there every single day about how much she hates this country. She thinks it's racist and sexist. And she wanted Hakeem Jeffries to affirm that. Here, listen.
Do you think that racism and misogyny played any part in this election?
Well, listen, I think that Vice President Harris was eminently qualified. Mm-hmm. And I supported her with everything that I had, and I think so many Americans did. It was a close election at the end of the day. Didn't break in her direction. I think we all are going to unpack as part of our after-action analysis. How did this happen?
Yeah.
Where did we fall short? I do think that the emerging lesson, separate and apart from reasons may be connected to race and misogyny, is that the economy was the dominant theme for a lot of folks, particularly when you consider that in many communities of color, there was movement away from the Democratic candidate and toward the former president.
But he didn't go there. He didn't go where Sonny Hostin wanted.
Because he can't. You heard what he said at the end. There was significant movement of people of color to the other candidate.
Right.
How do you claim racism when more people of color vote for Donald Trump and against her, a person of color, a woman? Look, I hope that they stay on this theme. I really do. I hope that they continue to believe that it was race and gender that was the problem. Because the longer that they don't look in the mirror and realize that she was an inauthentic, bad candidate, God bless them. I hope she runs again. Big story tomorrow about how her future is bright and she's mulling over her choices. Please run again. And pick Tim Walz, by the way. Please, we'll help you. They are it was so bad and painful. And if they believe that was a result of racism and misogyny, then God bless them. Good for you. I mean, it's. Yeah. And that's the thing that you saw in that Hakeem Jeffries clip is that he knows that that's not true, but he doesn't want to say it because he knows he'll piss off his left-wing base.
Right.
But he's also smart enough to know that, that's just not what the data says.
So something may have happened over the weekend. Maybe a memo was issued from ABC News. I like to remind everybody The View is an ABC News program. Because Ana Navarro wanted to, get all apocalyptic about what the next 4 years with Trump were going to be. And listen to Whoopi Goldberg try to actually rein her in a bit. This is fascinating.
I think what we're all saying is we're going to sit and watch. We're going to wait and see because we can't do anything else except.
I'm not going to wait and see. I mean, this guy is told us he's a retribution.
What are you going to do? What are you doing? There's nothing to be done until you know what you're fighting. It's pissing in the wind doesn't help. You just get a wet face.
But I have I have no false expectations that at 78 he's going to all of a sudden turn into another human being. And I'm not going to spend. I spent
people tune out.
I spent weeks telling people that he was apocalyptic. I'm not going to change now because it's still the same man.
Not treating every single thing like
I think that's when we lose credibility.
Well, here's the thing. You lose credibility in many different ways. If you don't know what you're talking about and you accuse him of something, then they're going to blow it back. That's why I say we need to wait and see exactly what you're going to do.
That's fascinating, I think. You know, this whole idea of, no, you know what loses credibility? Constantly screaming that the sky is falling, and then the sky doesn't fall.
But you know, they when you tell people over and over again that he's a misogynist and a racist, and it gets proven. I mean, you know, it's actually funny, Larry. I pointed this out on my podcast the other day. But after the election, you remember that comedian that made that stupid
the Puerto
joke
Rico
Puerto
joke,
Rico, right? And the media spent literally 5 days about a comedian telling a joke that didn't go over well, whatever. Then the result was that most Puerto Ricans living on the mainland voted for Trump. The island went for a Republican governor. The legislature in both houses went Republican. Man, if he's a racist and a misogynist, he's doing a horrible job, because he also just appointed how many strong women to the most senior ranks of the government. His first female chief of staff ever, youngest woman to hold the podium as press secretary. Brooke Rollins, USDA. I mean, I could go down the list. Linda McMahon, a former boss of mine at the Department of Education. It's like the problem that the media in general has is at some point they forget that we have eyes and ears. And they go, wait a second, if he doesn't like strong women, he's doing a very bad job at it. Over and over again, and that's the problem with Ana Navarro, is that she keeps saying, I'm going to keep screaming it. And everyone goes, but I don't believe it.
Do you know why she keeps screaming it? Because she keeps getting rewarded. As long as they give her that platform and they give her that paycheck, she'll continue to do what she does. But
I will tell you one quick thing. As I think most of the people in D.C. are so used to having their butts kissed and sucked up to, is that she just was, I think, pissed off the first go-around that no one sought her opinion out. And that's the problem, is that so many of these people in D.C. who are used to cycle after cycle being told that they're really important and that the candidate wants to meet with them and talk to them and get their views. When Trump said, I don't need any of you, I know my way, I know what I believe, and I know what I'm going to fight for, they were offended that the ring wasn't kissed, and so they became obstinate to him. Most of these folks in D.C. are just so used to power and access that when it was denied to them.
Just say his name, Sean. Bill Kristol. Just say it. Say it out loud. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's 6:25. WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives with JB Whitten in the hit.
Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:36 here on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in this very special Tuesday morning. It's special, well, every morning is special as far as I'm concerned, as long as we're together talking about the events around us. It's also Thanksgiving week, which is all about food, family, and football, which always makes people happy. But finally, we're joined by Sean Spicer all morning long. Of course, you remember Sean Spicer from his days on Capitol Hill as weren't you the deputy U.S. Trade Representative?
Assistant. Yeah, it's like George Costanza. I was the assistant to the traveling secretary.
Gotcha. But that's a deal. Then you were at the RNC, of course, during the major growth years of the Republican National Committee.
Yeah.
Then, of course, as the press secretary for Donald Trump. And I've lost track of you since then. Have you been keeping yourself busy?
I have a small little show on every night at 6, which is you can go to a small little platform called YouTube. And it's available. Now, we're trying to make it on this platform called YouTube.
Yes.
But I think that it's going to take
that.
off. I think the kids are going to like it. I feel good about it.
It's a great show, actually, and I am honored to be a semi-frequent guest. Would you call me a regular?
Well, the contract says that for that you guys pay enough that we have to allow you to appear. So it's
what it is.
It is, but it's always entertaining and it's fun, and I love the banter. It's the evening version of talk radio. How's that?
No, you can say it. Say it go all the way. It's the evening version of this show, and I understand. It's okay. You stole my
which,
format.
By the way, no. So it was Spicer and Company when I was on Newsmax, and then you were like, "Oh, this is good," and then I get it. It's a leapfrog effect, but I then had to go back out and recreate a whole new thing because I didn't want, Anyway, I don't want to bore the audience.
The point is, you're on not just YouTube, but all streaming platforms, and there's this whole new world now of leaping over the major media corporations leaping over what we call the gatekeepers, the people who used to be responsible for delivering news and information to you. Social media is a big component of that. But streaming, look at the power of the streaming shows like The Joe Rogan Show, Theo Von, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Sean Spicer.
Can I tell you something? Here's what hit home yesterday for me. And I know this is like we have our epiphany moments at random times. So forever, you and I have talked about this, but like the Maha movement, people getting healthy has sort of come to light. And the media has kept us from hearing about stories, processed foods, dyes, et cetera, you name it. And so RFK and others were talking about fluoride being of concern. And I don't have a medical background, so I don't know anything about this. But I'm watching it with interest. And then for the longest time, it was dismissed by just a right-wing, nutty,
It's a
kooky
conspiracy.
thing. It's a conspiracy. Yeah. Yesterday morning, I'm flipping around, and sure enough, the Today Show, Stephanie Goss comes on and says, new evidence is coming out about concerns about fluoride. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. For the longest time, you told us it didn't exist, but it was only because of this new media.
Yeah.
Because we're able to have discussions and guests on. I mean, you think about Callie and Casey Means, who've come to prominence because of independent media, whether it's Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson or what have you. But, like, you can have discussions and guests and cover subjects that they literally will ignore. And I love that about this, is that when you have an interest, you can go now and scratch it, bring on guests, talk about subjects that were
100%.
And now the media is like, oh, crap, like, people know that we didn't cover this, so now we need to do something. But I love that.
I do too. And listen, we do our own version of that here every single day. I mean, I look at the coverage that we did at the Loudoun County School Board meetings.
Yeah.
That was a local story in our backyard that exploded, became an international story, and probably is still one of the driving forces behind the realignment that we've seen politically, because parents saw what was going on with their schools. But when we covered it, was just a school board meeting, right? But it had much larger ramifications. And you can't just wait for these gatekeepers in the media to cover stories like that, because they're either not interested or they recognize the power of those stories. And
and then they get forced to cover it.
Yes.
Because everyone starts saying, I heard this, on WMAL, or I heard Sean Spicer talk about it on his podcast, whatever it is. And there's a point at which they go, oh boy, now we have to cover it to look like we're not covering it up.
They either do that or they lash out and they start screaming and demeaning those of us. And that brings us to Axio CEO Jim Vandehey. Now, Jim Vandehey used to work at the Washington. He actually started as a sports reporter in Wisconsin, got a job at Roll Call, where my lovely wife Meredith used to work too. Then got a job at the Washington Post, then spun off and co-founded Politico, then went to Axios, and now here he was at the National Press Club. And, well, just listen to Jim Vandehey, and then we'll comment.
Everything we do is under fire. Elon Musk sits on Twitter every day, or X today, saying, like, we are the media, you are the media. My message to Elon Musk is, bullshit. You're not the media. You having a blue check mark, a Twitter handle, and 300 words of cleverness doesn't make you a reporter any more than me looking at your head and seeing that you have a brain and telling you I have an awesome set of tools makes me a damn neurosurgeon, right? Like, what we do, what journalists do, what you did in Mississippi, what Al Jazeera does in the Middle East. You don't proclaim yourself to be a reporter. Like, that's nonsense.
I hear Nero fiddling while Rome is burning. I hear the sound of a dinosaur not recognizing that the Ice Age is coming.
So I just want to make clear what we just saw. It was a sleight of hand. And most people don't see this, and this is why I want to just expose this clip.
Please.
What did he say that Elon Musk said? Like, I'm just a little quiz here.
You are the media now.
Okay, you are the media. And then he said, you aren't what?
BS is what he said.
No. But then he said you.
Oh, you aren't reporters.
Okay, do you see that though?
Right.
So that's the sleight of hand. Elon said you are the media now because media. I'm in the media. I'm not a reporter. I'm very clear about that. I don't want to be a reporter. I'm not a journalist. I don't like. And so, but Vandehey wants to play sleight of hand here, which is Elon saying we're all the media because we can expose stuff. We can bring transparency to issues. Exactly what you just said. You guys did on Loudoun County. Yeah. But there's a difference. I don't want to be a reporter. I mean, that's like, to me, that's a step down. Why would I want to be a reporter? I think that this is where, and he's so proud of the fact that these guys are wrong all the time.
Yes.
Elon's basically saying, I've given you guys a platform to expose these guys for the frauds that they are and the misinformation that they spread and the stories that they won't cover.
Yeah.
And now you want to, but the sleight of hand is where
That's
everyone,
a great
I
point.
think, in the audience lost it, because he changed the verbiage. And this is what they do all the time, is they start with one premise and then they shift. And if you don't pay a close attention, right? And this is what fact checkers do all the time. I remember I wrote about this in you mentioned my book. There was a fact check. Mike Pence went out there and said like something to the effect of this: America now enjoys the largest employment ever, and blah blah blah. Okay, full stop. Well, the fact checkers came in and said technically he's not right, because the population has grown, and as a percentage of the population, yes, more people are working, but when you look at it relative to the number of people that the country has, the percentage is actually one. And I'm like, wait a second. So he's right, but you don't like the context in which he gave the fact,
right?
And that doesn't make it wrong,
right?
And but that like and
well,
so
it's because they confuse the facts with the truth. See,
right.
The facts are accurate, but they want you to take those facts and conclude a different truth.
It's all in relationship to, again, the perspective they want. If they don't like you, then whatever you say is out of context. Yeah. If you can say it on the left, that's okay, because it's in pursuit of, again, what they call the greater good.
That's right. And if Jim Vandehey is and here's the dirty little secret, both Sean and I think most of us would love a strong, robust media and reporters and free press. I revere the First Amendment. If you're really upset about the current status of the news media in America, Jim Vandehey, don't yell at Elon Musk and social media. Why don't you take it up with 60 Minutes, who still has not released the transcript of their interview with Kamala Harris? And their deception in that interview and the editing that they did was exposed by who? By some random guy on X.
Yes.
That's the point.
See, that's the point here, is that when they are exposed for the frauds that they are, for covering up Hunter Biden's laptop, for not for the Russia host, for not exposing, then they lash out and claim that we're not reporters. Yes. I don't want to be, considering their track record lately. Yeah. Why would you want to be I mean, that's like saying you're not a criminal. I don't want to be one of you.
6:40.
On the next Vince Coglianese show, the stories ripped from the headlines and translated into the truth. Join us 3 to 6 on WMAL.
So as mentioned, we've got Sean Spicer. You know, we could talk to Sean Spicer about politics, about the media, about Washington, D.C., about Trump, about New England Patriots football, about the Navy. By the way, thank you for your service as a member of the United States Navy Reserves. We appreciate that very much, sir. But
very welcome.
But if you had your druthers, you would do a 4-hour program all about yacht rock. You have
as long as we
embraced
could
this
have
genre.
Music playing. Like I don't want to just talk. I want to listen.
Here's a documentary, or a bit of a trailer of a documentary that's focusing on this genre, this growing, really the fastest growing genre of music in America.
The singers all seem to be saying, hey, it's going to be okay.
Okay, see, here's the problem. It is the fastest growing genre, but the music all stopped being performed and produced about 35 years ago. But is it fair to say that this is old white guy music? Is that pretty much what we're talking about?
Yeah, that's actually.
Although George Benson is part of the yacht rock catalog.
Oh, there's some. I mean, there's a few of them that are just amazing as I think about it. George Benson being one of them, but there's. I mean, it's probably who listens to it.
Right,
that's
people
more
of
than
color create the music, but not.
Oh yeah, in fact, they're the backbone of it. I mean, you listen to who inspired some of these amazing artists. It all comes from that.
But so when people, how would you think people should be introduced? Do you think this documentary is a good way to introduce people to the genre?
I think I think it should be required, especially like as we consider new immigration rules. Like you should have to watch it if you want to be a citizen. I mean,
is that you gonna suggest that to Tom Homan and Christy Nome?
I may just like you have to listen to the first Christopher Cross album, and then maybe a little Michael McDonald. But yeah, I think that this would be a great way. The country would be so much. Maybe that's who Trump should focus on getting for his inauguration. That would unite the country in a way that we've never seen.
True. It's 6:50.